Okay, perfect. So, good evening, all, and welcome to the Breaking into Cybersecurity Masterclass. Thank you for being here. I'm going to share some insights with you. We're not as per the poster that you see. We're not going to delve into cybersecurity concepts. What is the CIA and all those good things? We're really going to delve into how to break into cybersecurity because what we're seeing is even though there's a shortage of skills in the industry, people are still finding it very difficult to break into the industry. And we find people are studying, they're doing hack the box, they're doing lots of things, but the results is not there. And there's a couple of avoidable mistakes that, when we know about it, we can do things differently. And I'm going to share some of that insights with you. In terms of what we will, just some ground rules, I'll say. I'll answer everyone's questions. So let's do the questions at the end. We're not going to be fixed to 1 hour. If you need to drop at any time, you can do that. I'll probably present for about 50 minutes, 55 minutes, but we'll go for however long we need to get through all the questions. You can reach out to me after the masterclass at any point. If next week you've got a question, you can pop it to me anytime. I'll share with you what I have and the network I've got. I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't done it. I share quite a bit of resources that can benefit people. And then some of the things I share might be extremely obvious to you, as people on the call who's been working in the industry for 10 plus years, and there's people on the call who's trying to break in and they've never worked in the industry. So I'm really speaking to the audience group largely who's trying to break in, or also who's working in a space but they're trying to pivot into cybersecurity. So you might be working in IT or even outside of IT, and you want to break into cyber, there's something in here for you. And then, as I mentioned, technical competencies is not what I'm going to be discussing. That's expected. If you want to be a firewall engineer, you need to have the skills to configure and manage a firewall. And that's not what I'm covering here. I'm just speaking about the strategies around breaking in. You will get a PDF copy of the slides. You'll get a recording of this presentation as well, and then a number of other resources you will get. And as I go through it, I'll indicate to you what additional resources I'll share with you. Okay. A little bit about me. And if you've ever seen me present at conferences, I never ever present or start with about me, but this is quite important because I'm about to share some strategies with you. I'm about to share some, I want to say, career advice with you. And it is important that you understand who I am and where I've been for the last 13 years so that you can see that it might be a good idea to take some of these bits and pieces. I speak at a number of conferences, locally and internationally. I write for quite a bit of publications as well, again, locally and internationally. I'm a certified ISC2 trainer, so I can train in the courses of CISSP, CCSSCP, and also CCSP, which is the cloud certification. And then I contribute quite a bit to the industry. So I'm very passionate about public security awareness, so I do quite a bit of work in that space. And then I founded the IAC2 Cape Town chapter, which is fundamentally a vehicle that's meant to bring people together in Cape Town from a cyber perspective. I hold a number of certifications, about 28 in total. So I've got a good idea of what is worth it, what is not worth it, what has been, opening doors for me, and which ones I would avoid. But I've done a lot of these things. So if you're thinking about doing one, you could always ask me, what's my thoughts on one versus the other. I've got my ideas of what is valuable and what is not. So I've done quite a bit of those things. In terms of experience, I worked for the Foschini Group, maybe better known as TFG, for at least 11 years. I was in end user computing. And then for the last 3 years, 4 years there, I was the security SOC manager. So I built and managed the first inner SOC for them. And then I moved to Ensign Petroleum. And effectively, at Ensign, I was a solutions architect, principal architect, and now head of cybersecurity for Ensign. So just a little bit of background about me so that contextualize the advice I'm giving and where I'm coming from. I've been on the side of hiring people several times in my career, both at TFG and at Tenzin. So I know what I look for when I hire people. I've also been on the other side of it where I've gone for interviews. I've never been in one job longer than 2.5 years. And it's really about being intentional. It's about having a plan to say, I need to be there for 2.5 years. I need to learn certain things, and then I need to move to a space to learn more things. So, with that being said, I'll get straight into it. We will cover certifications. We will speak about different roles and specifically the more popular roles in cybersecurity. We'll talk about salary insights, and this is really when you're breaking into cyber. So you're looking at that first role. You're thinking, what's the salary mark I should aim for? I'll speak about that. I'll give some numbers and I'll share some insights. Soft skills, networking and personal branding, not networking in the technical sense, but networking and connecting with people, building a brand, the power of the brand. I'll speak about cyber communities because it's quite important. It's quite a useful tool in the search as well. We'll talk a little bit about the CV and application tracking systems, and then we'll talk about LinkedIn because it's a powerful platform when used correctly. Okay. Now, I like to start off with what it is I'm trying to achieve here. And generally, in our careers, there's kind of three phases. There's the first phase where we put in a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, we write a lot of exams, but the output is not there. So you're kind of putting in more than what you're getting out. At least it feels like it. So you're not getting the job, you're not getting the interview. But you see the dotted line is there because it only feels like we're not getting out. But in effect, we're paying our school fees here. So, we're really doing the work. And then you get to the phase where you kind of get out what you put in. But where we ultimately want to be is where you're putting in a little, you're getting out a lot. And this is when you are strategic. This is when you really plan and you say, instead of doing 12, 13 certifications that the market isn't looking for, I'm rather going to save up and spend 4, 5 months studying, but I'm going to do one that's really powerful, that aligns to my goals, the market recognizes it, and I get more value. So we could also, go out and start networking and building big LinkedIn followings and building big networks, but it could be big networks of the wrong people. So if you are trying to break into cybersecurity, networking with 100 other people who's trying to break into cybersecurity is not effective. You need to be networking with HR practitioners, with hiring managers, with CISOs. So it's just about being strategic, and this is effectively what I wanna speak about. I wanna share strategies around how to be more strategic and how to get the maximum return on your investment in terms of time and in terms of money. Now, I always ask people, why do you want to be in cybersecurity? And you could say 7 times out of 10, it's got to do with, I want to earn big money. And the problem is that drives the wrong behavior because people start coming into the industry with an overinflated sense of what they should be earning. They come in with no experience and they're expecting to earn 40,000 Rand a month. And then 18 months later, they're expecting to be on 60, 70, and it just drives the wrong behavior all around. So I always say that the reasons why you want to be in cyber, it's because at least one or two, ideally all of it, but most of the things on the screen should resonate with you. So job security is key, and that you will get. Intellectual stimulation, cybersecurity is different every day. So if you like solving problems, if you like difficult situations, dealing with things, and then eventually getting to a solution, you like studying, learning, there is no way to avoid continuous education and development. Cybersecurity, you will always be busy developing. And if that's not your nature, then you need to rethink if this is the field for you because the amount of new techniques coming out, of new things coming out, the certifications all require you to maintain them annually with continuous development points. If you've got a passion to make a difference and you say, critical infrastructure, citizen awareness, I want to do something positive on that scale. And then career flexibility. So if you think of cybersecurity, whether you want to be a pen tester, a SOC analyst, an auditor, a security awareness administrator, there's something for everyone. So you can be a lot of different things and still be in cybersecurity. And if those things resonate with you, then it's probably the field for you. The money and the high earning potential is an outcome, but it's not the driver. And I've seen cases where it's the driver. It drives the wrong behavior in ways you can't imagine. The next thing I want to speak about is certifications. Now here, this might be obvious to some people, but I've seen cases where it's not obvious as well. So I'm going to touch on this. With certifications, it's important to understand we get certification bodies. So this is the body that issues the certification, and there's a lot of them. Every other business is now issuing these certificates out, but the ones that's known and respected in the market is probably the ones on the screen. So ISC2, you would have heard of CISSP, the CISP. ISC2 is the one that issues that out, and a host of others. ISACA, CISM, C-Risk, CISA, more auditing and risk management. ISC2 is more cybersecurity. EC Council, also very popular. Again, people question the true value and ethics of EC Council, but it's extremely popular in the market in terms of people asking for certifications. The one that comes from them is CE8. CompTIA is probably most famous for Security Plus, and the list goes on. SANS is very expensive, so you would rarely find South African jobs asking for SANS credentials. I think the cheapest SANS certification now is about 200,000 rand. Right now, these are the bodies that issue certifications out. Now, you can find a private college that's offering you CompTIA Security Plus, but what they're probably offering you is the training material, and at the end, they could give you a paper and it could be a certificate of completion. Now, that's not to be confused with an actual international certification. You get certifications, and that is a certification can only be issued by the official body. You generally would have the ability to log into an online platform, and you'd be able to see the certifications you hold, and you would need to maintain it by paying an annual fee and by uploading evidence that you are keeping active in the field. So if you go to a conference, you capture the conference, say, I went to Security Web, I spent 8 hours there, and these are the themes. That's what certifications generally require you to do to maintain them so that it doesn't become stale. Certificates and certificates of completion, you do a course online, you do a course at some private college, and you get a certificate that says Grant Hughes completed this and he spent 7 hours or 3 months completing this. Now, I'll explain to you how to use these things, but it's important. Now, this one was for ISO 27001. Now, if I were to do an official ISO 27001 certification, that would come from PECB, or it might come from a company called or institution called BSI, but it cannot come from Udemy. Now, the certificate of completion, when you're starting out, these things are useful on your CV to demonstrate commitment. If I'm interviewing you and you're new and you've got no industry certifications, but you say to me, I've completed 15 courses on Udemy for the past 8 or 10 months, what you're demonstrating there is effort. You're demonstrating that I don't have the money to do the expensive certifications, but I still committed the time because I want to learn. When you progress further in your career and you start getting the international certifications, you wouldn't be putting Udemy and those things on your CV because now you've got something that supersedes that. But it's very important to understand this. I've seen people pay expensive fees at private colleges only for a Security Plus certificate of completion that's done over 12 months, and then they still don't have the international certification. I've seen a college here in Cape Town charging 32,000 Rand. You do this course over 6 months, and basically they drag it out. And then at the end of it, you walk away there with your piece of paper from the college. In reality, you could log on to the CompTIA website. You could buy your international exam voucher for 3,500 Rand, and you could buy an official textbook on Take a Lot for 1,000 Rand. And for 4,500, you could be well on your way on your own pace, preparing for the international exam. Now, another important thing with certifications again is your approach. There's two types. There's vendor agnostic certifications and there's vendor specific certifications. Now, vendor agnostic certifications focuses on the principles as opposed to a specific technology. So if you think of Cisco or Fortinet or Microsoft, they all have their own exams, and effectively you are certifying to say, I am an expert in installing firewalls. Now, the challenge with that is firewall versions change every other month, and you constantly need to be rewriting the exams as the firewall platforms or the cloud platforms change from one version to another, because you will always be certified on a technology version or platform. It's not a certification that holds for things in the future. On the other spectrum, you have vendor agnostic. Now, vendor agnostic will say to you, to protect a network, we need to have firewalls, and these are the best practices for firewalls. You need to have MFA administrators, no risky firewall rules, configurations must be appropriate. And whether you are working with a Cisco firewall or Fortinet firewall, as a security practitioner, you will understand that. Now, on the vendor specific side, you will go into detail on how to configure those things, and you probably will learn a little bit of the basics, but it depends on what it is you're pursuing. If you want to be a technologist, then probably the vendor certification path makes more sense for you. And you could say that from my perspective, I'm going to establish myself as a Microsoft guy or as a Microsoft girl or AWS or Google, and you go down that path and you become an expert in that technology domain. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? Or you can say, I want to be a security practitioner that is independent of any technology. I want to be able to go into any organization, regardless of what they're using, and I want to guide them on how to build a good security program. I want to review things, and I want to come from a technology independent perspective. Um, Obviously, the one has a longer lifespan because it's not tied to the version of any platform, and the other one has a much shorter lifespan because if this firewall version upgrades, so much your certification. My approach, out of the 28 certifications I hold, only two is vendor specific. The rest is all vendor agnostic. And again, this is my specific approach, and I'll share with you. I made a call early to say I'm not tying myself to any platform. So I did two Microsoft certifications because they're quite widely spread in the industry. And the rest is all vendor agnostic because I want to be a practitioner that's independent of any platform. From your perspective, the advice I'd give you is also balance the approach. You could be, depending on where you are, you might say it makes a lot of sense for me to do some AWS, but I want to strongly encourage you not to neglect the vendor agnostic certifications because those ones will serve you much longer and they give you that technology independent view of how things fit together. Another tip that I'll give you now that I'm thinking about it is when you are doing certifications, a lot of certifications are quite similar in scope. So I personally do this, I group the certification. So if you look at CompTIA Security Plus and you look at ISC2 SSCP, now it's two different certification bodies and it's two different certifications, but the body of knowledge is very similar. So if you study for one, you can write them both. So effectively, what I would do is I would study for a cloud certification for ISC2, and I would then, with that same study effort, I would write another certification in the same week. That is maybe the Cloud Certificate of Security Knowledge by the Cloud Security Alliance. So I always try and find uh, two or three certifications in the same domain so that when I spend my 3, 4 months preparing for the certification, I'm actually preparing for at least two, sometimes even three that's got very, very similar body of knowledge. And there's a lot of those that overlap like that. There's a lot of that. Um, in terms of specific certifications from an entry level perspective that the market recognizes, again, we do certifications to make us more marketable. You can for all the certifications you see here, you can buy the material, you can buy the book, you can go on YouTube and you can study the content just to learn. All right. So learning always is available at if it's not free, it's quite affordable, but we certify to make us more marketable. We go through the effort of paying and writing an exam so our CV looks better, so we can prove something to ourselves, but more times so we can prove something to the employees or future employees we want to work for. If you're moving more towards advanced certifications, I'm mentioning it here, but probably given the title of this masterclass, this wouldn't be on your radar now. But the top five things that normally is always requested for most senior jobs: CISSP, CCSP is Cloud One, CISM, CISA, CE8s. If you Google top 10, top 5, top 15 certifications, you're bound to find that five in that list. Now, what I want to discuss now is different cybersecurity roles, and this is quite important because we need to have some level of understanding of what the job roles are that's out there. Because if we're wanting to break into cyber, we need to be more specific than that. You cannot, if up until now you've said I want to work into I want to work in cybersecurity, or I want to pivot in, and that's the extent of what you want to do, that could also explain difficulties you're facing because you need to be extremely specific. It's like somebody saying, I want to go into the medical industry. Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to manufacture medical equipment? You need to be very specific. In cybersecurity, there's probably more than 40 different roles that you can do. So, different job roles. And when you know what it is you're aiming towards, it starts guiding your strategy in terms of the skills you acquire, in terms of the studies you do, the certifications, etc. So I will touch on a few. Security analyst, very common job role. Every company has got their own definition of what it is. From my experience at two big organizations and having spoken to a few, it's really one of those roles that do everything. So you'll be doing some incident response, some security investigations, anything, just anything goes. Pen testing is a little bit more specific. It's what the name says. You're ethical hacker, so you'll be focusing on the red team simulations, finding weaknesses in systems, and then writing reports on that. Security engineer, also many companies adopt their own definitions, but the most common one I'm seeing in here is security engineers tied to cloud platforms. So typically you'd be a cloud, like working on Azure, AWS, or GCP. Very popular now is SOC analyst roles, so security operations centers. They've got a tiering system. So with no experience, you're probably looking at a SOC level one. So you're sitting in a SOC looking at some big screens, and as incidents come in, you'd be just looking at things taking some actions. Then as you become more senior, there's a level two and there's a level three, which is typically the senior people. And then there would be threat hunters as well and a SOC manager. So security operation centers are becoming increasingly popular now. There's a lot of companies building SOCs. So this could very well be a role many people aspire to these days. And then obviously cloud security engineer, like I said, security engineer and cloud security engineer, many times the same thing. Security managers, security consultant could also mean anything. It just means you come in generally on a per hour rate and you do whatever is needed. Generally, consultants are tied to advisory roles. So you come in, you advise, you build out strategies. There's forensics, there's architecture. Some of these roles you cannot pivot into straight. Actually, I want to say most of them you kind of need to start at the base role, like like an analyst role or a SOC level one role. It would be extremely difficult to fall into a forensics role or advisory role if you haven't gone through at least some of the basics. Now, there's another consideration here. I've seen people pivot into cyber who's never been in IT. Now, I've seen it that they always find it more difficult than those who's been in IT. If you've been in IT, let's say you've been in service desk, you've been in desktop support for 5 years or 10 years, you're going to be transitioning into a cybersecurity role much easier than somebody who's coming fresh off the press straight into cyber. And the reason is simple. You've seen what the reality is. From a cybersecurity perspective, when you just hop into the field, you've got these idealistic ideas of how the world should work. You need to roll out a new security tool to your 3,000 users. And in your mind, it should be really quick because you just deploy centrally and off you go. But now, when you've worked in IT, you understand that not all the devices have a working SCCM or Intune client. Some devices are on the field, the bandwidth is slow, they don't connect back to head office. Now you understand all the challenges. So that makes it very powerful for you to have informed conversations, because if you've never seen the reality of what a IT environment is like, then you coming there with a requirement because there's a risk, there's a new NIST standard, and all the while you're not recognizing the realities of what IT operations staff have to deal with. So what I'm saying is, I've seen people make a success of both. I've seen people go in to cybersecurity with no IT experience and they pull it off, but it takes a lot more work. So you must just, if you are in that space, just acknowledge up front, it's going to take quite a bit more work for you compared to somebody who's coming in and who's been in IT for 10 years and who's now just finding his way in cybersecurity. In terms of your strategy versus specializing on something versus being a jack of all trades, I think it's good to have a broad understanding early in your career, but specialization is key. The market pays for expertise that's rare and that's scarce, and being a generalist just won't serve that. It won't serve you well if you're trying to differentiate in the market. So first few years absolutely fine to be a generalist, be an analyst, do as many things as you can, but then start pivoting into a specialist field to say I'm zoning in and I'm going to specialize on third party risk management, or I'm going into forensics, or I'm going into pen testing. um, it just works when you specialize in it. You can build a brand, you can build a space for yourself there. Salary insights. Okay, so this is what I've seen. This is what I've seen. This is what people has informed me who I know in the industry. When you're looking at youth development programs, so typically community academies, you've never been to university. You come from school, you go into a 10, 12 month program. Realistically, you're looking at anything between 4 and 10,000 rand. Again, there could be outliers here, but that's what I've seen in the last 12 to 18 months is what you're looking at. Graduates, so you've been to university, you've got a degree, but you've got no experience, anything from 6,000 to 28,000. It just depends on the organization you work for. Big companies have deep pockets. They've got formal grad programs, and for that 28,000, it includes you doing a number of formal certifications as well. You typically in a grad program, it's coming with a whole lot of development included in addition to the salary. All right. Again, it depends on where you are placed. If you go into a small one-man business, 6,000 might be all you get. You might even get three. And then entry level roles. So let's say you're now getting a permanent role where it's a SOC analyst, anything from 15 to 40, again, depending on the organization you work for. So the key takeaway is that it's quite disparate, but some people are lucky. And the problem is, it's actually not very beneficial with no experience to start on 28,000 in a month, because immediately it creates an expectation. 28,000 a month needs to be earned. You need to at least know something to earn that kind of money. And when you start off with no experience, you earn that kind of money. What are you going to expect when you've got 3 years experience and two certifications behind your name? So it's not always beneficial to be earning these big numbers off the bat. I do believe that we need to make sure that we add value. With salary, you need to be confident that you are adding value to the organization, and then payment needs to be fair. But that's the numbers from what I've seen. People sometimes ask me, should they work for free just to get experience? What I will say is this is also not easy. You can go and try this. You can go to companies and say, I want to work for free just to get the experience, and they might still say no. There's reasons for that. HR policies, it's difficult to onboard people. If a company takes you in and you in the environment, there's the responsibilities they have towards you. So it's not as easy as you just sitting there giving your time. The other thing is, can you afford to work for free? If you can, then by all means, if you are financially able to do it and the opportunity presents itself and it's worth it, then by all means go for it. But for the most part, that's probably not possible. So you need to calculate what is the minimum number you need to survive, the number that you need to ensure that you can live a dignified life. And that's the number that's not negotiable for you. If you are paying rent, you've got a child, you need to pay for childcare, for food, and your number comes to 13,000 in a month. That's your minimum number, and you can't work for 9,000 because that will introduce all kinds of pressure, stress on you, and probably will impact your job negatively. So determine your absolute minimum, and if you are fortunate and your absolute minimum is zero and you can work for free, then that's also fine, and you can find opportunities that might work for you to give you that experience. Things to factor in when you are looking at the salary, and sometimes we don't look at this, but do they pay for training? I'll tell you, I've been at companies where my training alone for the year was 300,000, and that makes a big difference. So you can take a small knock on the salary, but do they cover your training renewals? Now I hold 27, 28 certifications, and just to renew them every year is almost 20,000 rand. So one of my interview questions is always, do you pay renewals of certifications for employees? Some companies do, some don't. But when you have that information, you can make an informed decision, because your salary might be 15,000 rand, but when you start taking in all the other things, you could see that your actual take home, your actual value you're getting here is 30,000 rand. So do they offer study leave? Are they good people to learn from? Because if you go into a company and they're expecting, you to do all kinds of things and you're the only cyber person, couple of things, a couple of red flags stand out there, because there's nobody to learn from. There's only one person that speaks to how serious cyber is being taken. But if you're going to a place and you know there's experienced people, they've been in the industry long, you can learn from them. That's powerful. It's actually priceless, being able to learn from the right people. And sometimes it's not available to everyone. The other topic that I want to cover now is soft skills, right? So we obviously focus a lot on technical skills and cybersecurity skills and all those things, and sometimes we forget that the other things are also important. And this is something that I can attest to. Most of my successes didn't come from technical expertise or technical revolutionaries. It's actually just been centered around the ability to communicate with people. So it's the ability to write a report in a way that anyone can understand. It's the ability to speak to a technical team, understand what they're saying, look at a console, understand what you're looking at, and then walking up to a board and explaining to them what is happening in a way they can understand. And that is powerful, because what we get is we get a lot of people that's good at speaking to boards, but they can't speak to technical people. And then we get a lot of technical people who's good with that conversation, but they can't translate. And when you are able to master the ability to communicate between different levels of people, it's very powerful and it's very rare, and it will serve you well. So the ability to write reports in a way that is concise, because cybersecurity is all about reports. There will be incidents, there will be trends. How do you bring the information across, the same information, to different stakeholders? Different people are in different things. So, for example, when you're doing a report for your operational teams, you're speaking server names and technical details. When you're presenting to your exco, you're speaking trends, you're speaking risk to the organization. Both in the ability, or right, in the ability to speak, I would encourage you to really, really try and zone in on this. Attention to detail. We work with incidents, small things. You're looking at a log file from the firewall, you're looking at a log file from a cloud platform. Something as simple as the time zone makes a big difference in the incident, because if one device is presenting you logs in one time zone and another in a different time zone, you need to translate those things, and small things like that make all the difference. So attention to detail is not just something we say on the CV, you actually really have to live that. And then having a problem solving mindset. In cyber, we have all kinds of problems. Most of it, sometimes we cause ourselves by trying to protect things and then break other things in the process. But at the essence, we solve problems. So we could have a business user that needs to go to another country and he needs to do work on critical applications and he must do it securely. And what do we propose? We at the point now where the business want to do things securely, and they will come to us and say, oh, we need to use this supplier. That's the only people that can do this analytics for us, but they don't comply with our security controls. How can we make it work? So it's about having that mindset to say that we need to find a way to enable the business securely. If you're fixing a problem, ask why did it break, and ask why until you get to the bottom of it. But have that mindset of what's the root cause? How can I prevent it? How can I pick it up faster? And how can we make sure it doesn't happen again? There's a person, if you don't follow him, I would strongly recommend that you follow him. His name is Philemon Zongo. He's a global CISO and thought leader. And the advice he gave me was to really improve your communication, you must start writing. And it's been powerful for me. I've done it. When you write articles and you write for journal papers, you have to do a lot of research. You need to read between 15, 20, 30 papers just to write one paper. And these guidelines, they'll say the paper can't be more than 10 pages long. So now you need to be crystal clear in your thoughts, your understanding expands, your ability to just write clearly. You write every sentence and you say, if I take the sentence out, will it still make sense? And you need to get to that point where you only give information that adds value in a way that people can understand. So if you are in the early phases of your career, probably now is not the time to start writing. But I'm just telling it to you anyway, so that you can keep it in the back of your mind. It's been a game changer for me, and that's why you'll see I spend a lot of time writing for different publications. Um, okay, so I spoke about that. Personal branding. So personal branding, it's another powerful thing, especially in the job search, and I'll share some experiences on my side of the doors it's opened. But our brand is really what people think about when they see us. It's that combination of our experience, our skills, our personality. But if you look at Mercedes-Benz, you think of Mercedes-Benz, immediately you think quality. You might think expensive, but you're thinking reliability. Louis Vuitton, again, it's quality, it's exclusivity. Now, when people think of you, what do they think of? Now, we can't say we don't have a brand, we're not worrying with the brand. Everybody has a brand. Some people are just intentional about the message they are projecting with the brand. So it could be that you don't care too much what people think of you, and that's probably fine as well. But the thing I want to communicate here is that we have control over it. Now, in my case, I'm intentional about the brand, and the message I send to the market is that I know what I'm doing. I'm highly qualified to do it, to do what I do, and in my domain, I'm the best at what I do, and that's the message I communicate with my brand. And I've received paid invitations to come overseas, speak at conferences. People that has never engaged with me, they've never sit around a table with me, they've never seen me work, but that's the message they are receiving consistently due to the content I'm putting out, the way I'm projecting myself. And that's what we can do. That's the two things that I've seen come from building a good brand is that you can establish credibility. Now again, you can't build the brand with no substance. The work has to go in. So you need to have substance, and then the branding is just really telling people what it is you do. It's marketing yourself. And some people are not comfortable with that. Some people are not comfortable putting themselves out there. Again, if you are not comfortable putting yourself out there, it's unlikely anyone else is going to put you out there. Opportunities will come your way, and that it's a game changer. People will invite you to attend events. They will ask you, do you want to contribute to research? And it just opens up a world of opportunities for you. Now, hand in hand with the brand is networking. So networking is really meeting other people. I don't want to say with a hidden agenda, but meeting people with some objectives in mind. So say, can I meet somebody who can enhance my journey? Now we also have to ask the question later as you progress to more senior levels in your career, you need to then say, how can I give back? Because then people are gonna go to events with the intention of meeting you and wanting to benefit from networking with you. But at this point, networking is really about connecting with the right people with the intention of getting access to opportunities, of learning new things, of finding a mentor. And what it does for you, if you look at the job life cycle, people will post a job online, then there's application portals, then there's screening that happens. And then only after you've been screened successfully, a hiring manager gets to look at your CV. Now, networking allows you to slot in there because at a conference, you can speak to a potential manager, he gets to know you, you can express interest in wanting to work there, and he can look at your CV before you even go through the process. And that's what a good networking a strategy can do for you. The tip I would give you is conferences are extremely valuable in terms of networking. It's one of those places where in one room you get a lot of people that can open a lot of doors for you. Conferences are also very expensive. So if you cannot afford a conference, there's two things you can do. Number one, you can mail the organizers and you can offer to volunteer. In most cases, they will say yes. So you will just be there, you will help with the tickets, you help with the parking, but you get to be in the room for free, and that's very powerful. Another thing, and this is the chapter that I run, this is one of our missions, is we want to make these things accessible for people. So you can go down the ISC2 chapter page if you're not following it. And if you look at the last 10 posts, probably five of those posts are giving away tickets to conferences. And all you have to do is get involved, express your interest. We've so far we are sending 6 people to B sites. We sent 2 people to digitizing Africa last week. We sent 12 people to Converge Africa in April. We sent 4 people to IT Web Cape Town in June. And the what I want to communicate, and there's somebody on this call, and he messaged me and he said to me he wants to be on this masterclass, but he's having difficulties. And he was bold enough to be honest and to ask, and he's on this masterclass right now, and I won't mention his name. But the idea is that take charge of the situation, be bold, and most of these things, yes, it is commercially driven. But when you are bold enough to step out and to say, I badly want to be there, I can't afford it, I doubt somebody's going to say no. All right. So just keep it in mind. The chapter itself is gonna change the conference landscape as well. It's going to be a lot more accessible for people to be there. LinkedIn, powerful when we use it correctly. So I'm going to say just some high level points on things to do. Add a banner. So when people look at your picture, the banner, it gives a nice professional look. There's a platform called Canva. There's free options on there. Create the banner, add it up. The open to work banner around the picture, I recommend people to remove that. Number one, it doesn't do anything. Nobody that I know that's used the banner has ever been hired because the banner was up. And there's also this psychological thing of people wanting what they can't have. If you open to work, people automatically look past you. So consider removing that banner if you have it up. LinkedIn has a featured section. So if I go to your profile, the first thing I see is what you've selected as features. So if there's great achievements, remember you could be winning an award today, you could be top in your class, you post it on LinkedIn, we all like it, and then it just goes down the feed. But when you feature the post, it always stays on top. So use that as well. Your about section, it's your first intro, 2 or 3 paragraphs telling me what makes you unique. What is your biggest achievements? What makes you different from everyone else? Engage with posts. So if you're not comfortable posting, at least like, comment, reshare useful things. You see a good article, reshare it. But engage, create some presence, make it known that you are here. And then follow people, the right people that share some insights. I put some names, I put my name there as well because I do share some useful things, I believe. But these people all share events, insights, information that is genuinely useful. So if you're not familiar with them, if you're not following them, I strongly suggest you do. It will keep you in the know of what's happening. And from there, you will identify more people worth following. Stay away from using ChatGPT to generate posts and post it on LinkedIn. It doesn't do your brand any good. Keep it authentic. So you can get ideas from there, but try to keep your authentic voice. People can spot the AI generated post a mile away, and it just doesn't serve you well. Then I rather suggest you don't post content. Now, job hunting tips. So leverage networking and communities. So I'm going to talk about communities now, but communities effectively in a less formal setting, you get to network with people, and it's just easier that way. There's people that I know. I'll tell you something. Most of the CISOs hire who they know. It's very risky to hire a stranger because once you make somebody permanent and they don't deliver, it's difficult to get rid of people. So people like to work with people they've worked with before or people they know. It's all about trust and past relationships. So when you start networking, you're consistently showing up. Um, it makes all the difference when it gets time to people hiring you. Tailor your CV or your resume to the role. So if you are applying for soccer roles, make sure that your CV is highlighting your skills specific to soccer roles. If it's pen testing or something else, just customize the CV for the different types of roles. So you will know if you are aiming for 2 or 3 types of roles, you probably want to have 2 or 3 versions of the CV on hand so that you bring up those skills. Demonstrate your practical skills. So there's lots of these platforms, capture the flags, hack the box, but find the one that speaks to your area and demonstrate your ability to practically do the work. It's one thing to know things, but ultimately it comes around, can I actually do technical things or can I do practical things? Can I add value? When we study for Security Plus, they will teach you what a standard is. A standard is a set of best practices guiding you how to do specific things. But in a real world, they're going to ask you to write the standard. So practice how to write standards. Download standards from the internet, look at the format, and make sure you can write one because there's no company's going to ask you what is the definition of a standard. You need to actually write one. And then you need to think about how do I implement the standard. So there's a lot of ways, frameworks. You will have to develop frameworks. I could say develop a people management framework for the security team. There's templates. Download those things, look at them, see how it looks, and then come up with your own ones. Um, Two things. So I spoke about the cybersecurity with no IT experience already. The other one is just be careful for stepping stone applications. So this is where you say, I really want to work for let's use Engine. I really want to work for Engine. There's no security roles there now, but I'm gonna apply for service desk role and then work my way up. Be very careful of those things because number one, there's already 10 people in service desk who's planning to work their way into cyber. And the other one is not all roles make sense to pivot into cyber. So, for example, you can't go to audit and then want to come to cyber because from auditing perspective, you'll do yourself an injustice. You cannot audit cybersecurity if you've never done cybersecurity. You can only audit things you know because I've seen this. You can in real life, you can do it. It just doesn't serve you well. I've seen people go from university and they become cybersecurity IT auditors and they come into cybersecurity where I've been for 13 years and they want to audit a system that they've never in their life worked on. And it just doesn't go down well for them. So be mindful of that. Cyber communities. So I'll touch briefly on it. There's lots of communities, there's forums, there's chapters, there's groups of people who all have one thing in common. They want to bring people together, they want to share opportunities, they want to help you. All right. Previously on the masterclass, I shared a list of this. Now, if you go to my website /communities, you will see all the communities there, and there's a link you can click on that will take you either to the website or to the LinkedIn page. All of these communities are either free or they've got extremely low cost options available, but they are all primarily centered from a Cape Town perspective. And then some of them would be national, and then there's one or two international that's got free options that's useful. So, Cyber Leadership Institute, I put them on there because they are quite good. They've got the African Cyber Leadership Scholarship, where they sponsor 5 people from Africa every year. And that's worth putting your name in the hat, and you never know, you could win that. So have a look at the communities and see which one makes sense for you to join. Don't oversubscribe to everything. Choose two or three and really commit to it. Get to know the people, get to know the community. Obviously, I run the ISC2 chapter, so I would advocate for that. It's about where you get value, all right? Where you get the best value for the time you spend and the input you give. CV tips. So CV is obviously quite important. So just high level things not to put on the CV. Don't add your ID number to it, your direct physical address. You can put your location there to say Cape Town, but don't give your street name and number. Religion, don't add your high school if you've got university things because that supersedes. It implies you were in high school. Unrelated hobbies, remove that. You can add travel if you're going for a travel agent position, but don't put there. I like fixing cars on a weekend if you're aiming for a shock level role. Try for professional email addresses. In back in the day, email addresses could look like these things, Shadow Boy and these things, but let's go for name and surname as far possible, and then irrelevant work experience. So if it's your first job, then I think any experience is fine to add to the CV. But as you progress, then you can let go of the high school holiday job at sports and those things from the CV. So just to recap on this, use a template. I'm going to share with you a professional CV template. You see I put a star there. I'll explain why. Bullets as far possible. People need to read the CV. You don't want to make it overly complicated and wordy. Professional image, add an image to it. Again, this is star. I'll explain why. Ask somebody to look at your CV. Fresh eyes always helps. And then relevant achievements. Now, application tracking systems. There's a stat that Indeed.com, it's quite a popular job platform. They release a stat. They say 75% of qualified job seekers are rejected by the application tracking system due to readability issues. Now, effectively, what has happened here is the job is created, it's posted online, and you apply. Then a system automatically scans the CV and it will reject and shortlist. And then humans will get involved here by applications are screened. And the thing that this application tracking system looks at is two things: it's format and it's content. So from a format perspective, it's just looking for plain words, headings that connect back to the job advert. So if it's going to look for qualifications, it's expecting to find the qualifications that is listed on the job ad. So CISSP, SISM, if it matches, it matches. It's automatic, right? So you want to make it easy. What the research is showing is that these systems find it quite difficult to interpret graphic rich CVs. So PDFs with pictures and graphics and those things is getting a hard time here, and they're getting auto rejected by a large number of these systems. Useful tips is ensure that the keywords are there, submit the right type of file, write out the acronym. So write the full word and between brackets the acronym. So if they've configured the tracking system to look for the actual word or the acronym, either works. So let's say the system is meant to look for ATS. When you write it like this, you know it's going to catch it either way. Um, in terms of formats, so I now recommend that you have two formats on hand: a plain Word version as on the left, and whenever you're doing an application that is online and you need to upload your CV, you go with a plain Word document like this that is simple headings and just text. And then you have a professional copy like this on the right on hand. And the professional copy is when somebody says, please email me your CV, you email them the one that's graphic reads. And when you go to the interview, you take copies of the graphic reads one with, right? But you have the basic Word version to upload to any online application that will increase the chances of the CV passing through the automatic application tracking review process. All right. Part of what I will share with you is a customizable Word template for the graphic read CV. So you could just replace the content in there with your own information. The other one you could just type out. So I don't have a template for the one on the left. Free resources I'll share with you. Some you might know, some you might not. But I'll share this with you, and also one of the documents I'll share with you will have a list with the URLs of this. The Cloud Security Alliance is also a certification body. It's also an industry respected non-profit. They've got a number of certifications. The most popular one they have is called CCSK, Cloud Certificate Security Cloud Security Certificate or Knowledge or something like that. And then they released one now that's actually free. It's the Introduction to Generative AI and Prompt Engineering. It's a 3-hour course, and you get a certificate. And if you're early in your career, that's something that can actually go onto your CV. Cyber Leadership Institute, I mentioned them. Australian based, founded by three global CISOs. They've got a lot of courses. It starts at about 1,500 Rand all the way to 60,000 Rand. It's quite good. They do have an African scholarship where they give away 5 seats a year, so worth, and they've got a lot of free content. They've got playbooks, resources. Sign up as a free member and capitalize on all the free resources, and definitely put your name in the hat. They've got a flagship program called CLP. It's the Cyber Leadership Program. It runs 4 times a year, and it's people from about 60, 70 different countries on there. Runs over 8 weeks, and they build out and they teach you how to build a cybersecurity strategy, engage with stakeholders. Very, very practical. Your final submission there is going to be a board report, a board presentation, and a 10-minute video of you presenting. And then you also present to them live. AI is now very topical. This is a useful tool that I'm sharing with you. It's called the MITRE. So we all heard of the MITRE attack framework, or most of us would have heard that. Not a lot of people heard of MITRE Atlas. It's the adversarial threat landscape for AI systems. It's basically a map showing all the AI attacks and mitigations we can apply to keep safe. Then ISC2 is making available 1 million free certifications for their Certified in Cyber program. You will have to pay the maintenance fees of $50 a year starting the following year once you get the certificate. But if you're not yet certified, this is a good place to start. It's the industry kind of respects ISC2. It's the entry level certification. There's still free vouchers left. So if you're not aware of it, I encourage you to look into it. Again, I'm going to share with you a document that has links to all four of these resources in for you. Okay, as I'm closing off, effectively, to really make it in a corporate space, you need to balance three things, right? Qualifications, it's the university diploma, degree, certificate. And again, that might not be within the reach for all of us, but I still need to mention it. Then there's experience and skills that comes with the job, and then there's certifications. Now we can only start where we are with what we have, all right? Certifications, there's a lot of free things we can do. If you think of technology companies like Qualys, they got a free library of certifications, right? And again, it's technology specific, but you can start there and you get a job as a vulnerability administrator or security analyst. And when you start earning good money, you start studying part time and you're building away on the qualification. The idea is that we need to be resourceful. If we at a space where we don't have the luxury of going to university for 4 years, that is fine, right? Let's hustle in a way where we can get a job now, and then when we're comfortable enough, we start studying part time. But what is important to know is that senior jobs right now, and if you go on LinkedIn, you can go and look for them. They always say they want a 3 year degree or in IT or relevant field. You need a degree for senior roles. A lot of companies will take you in now with no degree at the base role, but at some point it will count against you. So put it in the back of your head that at some point you want to start chipping away, whether it's part time, at something formal from a university or similar institution. Experience and skills will come with time. So when you're fortunate enough to find your first role or your job, you'll build up the years, you build up the experience, but build up the qualifications and the certifications at the same time. I find that the magic number is more or less three and a half, four. When you've been in the industry for 4 years, you're then seen as a senior person, and it really helps when your experience is 4 years and you've got some good certifications to go with it, and hopefully a degree as well. Then you can really name your price. I think at that point the money follows, but we have to put in the work first. Um, Invest in yourself as far as you can, not just money, time as well. The biggest investment is time. It's hours and hours of studying. Writing an exam, depending on the exam, can take you 3 months, it can take you 9 months. And sometimes you will fail it. You will study 6 months and you will fail it. It happens. And we must be resilient, bounce back, and go again. From my side, the one skill, if there's one thing you decide to focus on, right, in your journey, is focus on the communication element. Make sure that you can do your job, but make sure you can communicate to people, because we're not working in isolation. You need to be able to write a report, speak to people in a way where they understand. There was a time in history where using big words and acronyms was a sign of intelligence, and that's not the case anymore. So if you can keep it simple, that's where the power lies. So that wraps it up on the hour. So as I mentioned, we're open for questions. There's no rush on my side, so I'm quite happy to take all the questions you have. If you're not comfortable now, you can mail me afterwards or you can LinkedIn me, but I will reply to all the questions. Okay. You can just put up your hand and we can control like that. Okay, let me just see. Okay, there's no hands. You can hear me, eh? Okay, Capello.
Yes, I can hear you on my side.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, Cabello.
Hi, sir. I just want to ask which book would you suggest? Because I heard you talk about books on Take a Lot, and there's quite a lot of them.
For what is this? For
Uh,
which exam is this, Cabello?
no, no, it's not for exam, but to maybe get like a better idea of cybersecurity as a dummy. Would you suggest like your cybersecurity all-in-one for dummies book for 1K?
No, I haven't read that book, Cabello, so I can't recommend that book.
Uh,
What I can say to you is, and this I will then share with everybody on the call. If you just want a base understanding of what is cybersecurity and where to start, what I can add to the list of the things I share later in the email to you all is maybe a link to one or two Udemy courses. All right, and maybe I can look at what books I can recommend. I can only recommend the book I've read myself, so I'll have to go and find that. um, but no, I can't comment on the book you just mentioned.
all right, no worries.
Okay,
Thank
huh?
you.
But let
Sure.
me make a note. Let me make a note. I'm gonna share with you links to books and video courses to start. Just basic knowledge in terms of cybersecurity.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question, or
Yeah, no,
is some?
you can ask as
Oh,
many questions
okay.
as you need to,
And
Cabello.
then with cybersecurity, does it depend which role you're going to be taking that's going to need you to maybe study programming, and then which programming language coincides more with cybersecurity, if you do know?
Okay. Yes. So it's role dependent. What's very popular now is a language called Python. All right. So Python. There's also a language called R. All right, and then obviously PowerShell scripting. All right, again, you could pursue roles in cybersecurity without any or knowing any of these languages, but knowing how to code and to script obviously would give you an edge over those who can't. All right, but the most popular ones that's coming up repeatedly is Python, R, and then PowerShell scripting is also quite important.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions
No,
before I move to the next person? Okay. Wusi.
Yes. Good evening, sir, and everyone. So,
Hello.
sir, my question is tailored around cybersecurity, essentially. So, I'm currently studying computer science. I'm doing my second year, and I'm faced with, I think, if it's safe to say for me, so many opportunities, career opportunities. And I was wondering, how does one pinpoint exactly, actually, to know, okay, this is where I want to, this is the career path that I want? How did you start in your career? How did you know that this is exactly what I want to do and is going to help me in my, in my future per se?
Yeah. So you see, I didn't know upfront. I kind of figured it out year by year. But what you can do is right. You can speak to different people. So you can speak to somebody working in a SOC and you can ask them what is it like working in a SOC, or better yet, you can do a job shadow for a day or half a day, and you come sit in a SOC and you see what people in a SOC do. Then you go to an auditor and you ask them what does auditors do, and you see what works best with your personality. All right, because when you find the sweet spot where it's something that's easy for you, you enjoy it, it's natural, it becomes easy. It becomes easy to do great work. If you think about like security management, right? It's not about cybersecurity anymore. Like now, what I do is I do budgets, I manage people, I build a strategy. I don't log on to tools of any sort. Now, if your nature is you want to be on a console every day, configure this, script this, code this, then security management wouldn't be a path that you pursue. All right. I would say speak to many different people. Now, again, the ISC2 Cape Town chapter has a YouTube page, right? And we speak to different people. So we spoke to a guy called Craig Pedersen, and we asked him what what does a career in digital forensics look like? And he explained to us, what do they do? What do you study to become a forensic specialist? And you can go and watch that YouTube video. This week, Thursday, and it's completely free, right? This week, Thursday, we're speaking to a lady called Roxanne. She's a highly qualified CRC specialist, and we're gonna speak about what CRC is as a career, what it's all about, what should you study, and you can ask all kinds of questions. And we've done this for many different roles. So you could certainly go and look at the past webinars we've had. You can join the future ones, or you could just speak to different people. You can just message me to say, Grant, I've got a great idea. In fact, I just got the idea now based on your question. But maybe what we should do is we should have a webinar on the IC2 where we invite 5 people who's all got different roles, and they can all just tell us about the role, and then you can get insight. I think that might be really helpful for a lot of people. All right. So I'll set that up for us in about 2 weeks from now.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you, sir. Thank you
Cool.
so much.
Anton typed something here. Anton is saying, if my goal post is a security engineer, is ISO needed? No, not at all. So first part of your question, Anton, a security engineer is generally a technical role that is, I want to say, on the mid to junior side. Okay. Now, ISO 27001 is a information security management certification. It's more experience. When you coming in to do a ISO audit, you've been in the game a long time. You are now consultant advisory level. Those two are not connected at all. All right. Right now I'm busy studying for ISO 27001. But no, it's not appropriate to study that in your pursuit of being an engineer. All right. So that's the first part of your question. ISO 27001 is a great certification. The market likes it, but it's more if your focus is risk management and auditing and advisory. Security plus SSCP plan is that, but I want ISO and ISACA CSX fundamentals. Not sure if they need it. Okay, yeah, you see, Anton, you ask a question that's making me reflect now. So you need a clear strategy. You need to be very clear on where you want to be, all right? Because you're hopping from a advisory risk certification to security plus and SSCP, which is mid entry level bordering mid certification, and then CSX fundamentals, which is entry level certification, right? So I think when it's crystal clear where you are heading towards, then everything else will become clear. If you say I want to be a SOC analyst, all right, immediately ISO 27001 is not needed, right? If you do security plus and SSCP, you don't need CSX fundamentals. Another thing is, if we don't have a plan, then all of the new certifications coming into the market will distract us. ISACA also released a new certification called ISACA Security Operations Analyst. The problem is no job is asking for that, but it looks good, so people might say, let me do this. You need to have a plan and you need to stick to the plan. All right. When again, without the plan, we are at the risk of spending time and money on stuff that's not going to serve us. All right. It won't serve the objective, it won't help us get there quicker. So hopefully I've answered the first question there. Cabello, could you get the name of the YouTube channel? Yes, you can. I'm gonna actually do this. I'm gonna put the link in the chat now. So hopefully it helps everybody. Let me just put the name in the chat. So that's the YouTube channel. Okay. Our website will be live in about a week's time. So that's the YouTube channel. And then just in case you're not familiar with our LinkedIn page, and I strongly encourage you to follow it for your own benefit. We are heavily focused on giving things away on there. Um, we just want to make it accessible for people to be able to attend conferences. Conference prices range anything from 3,000 rand to 12,000 rand, and we are in a position to get those things for free, and then we give it away for free. And you just need to be in it to win it. It's normally as simple as liking a post and sharing a post. Okay. Um, could we get, so I post the links. I don't see any hands. I see Garth is typing. You could also come off mute if you want, hey Garth.
Okay. Evening, God.
Hello, Garth.
Quick question. So I'm currently a end user computing engineer that deals mainly with Intune on a daily basis. I'm looking at moving into a Azure IAM role or endpoint security,
Yeah.
preferably in Azure next year. Um, Prepping currently for the SC 300 exam, planning on writing it next month. Is there any other suggestions or any other certs you suggest I look at besides Sec Plus?
Okay. So Garth, obviously you are wanting to specialize on the Microsoft stack.
Yeah.
Definitely, right? Okay. SE 300 definitely it would be the logical next one for you.
Hmm.
What I will do is um I'm going to there's another one that is vendor agnostic but very specific to identity and access management. Right?
Yeah.
I actually think it's called CIAM. Give me 1 second. Uh, tell you now. Yeah. So if identity and that's great because you've now decided that identity and access management is your thing. All
Yeah.
right. And now it makes it very easy because the Identity Management Institute has got a number of very specific courses and materials that is worth looking into, right? So on the Microsoft side, definitely the SE300. But
Okay.
if you wanna explore something in a vendor agnostic space, but
Yeah.
still keep to your specialization, have a look at the link I shared with you now.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Now you're welcome. Again, I want to just reiterate to anybody at any point after this, you could always just ask a question to say, what's my thoughts? Again, I'm not claiming to have the right answers. I'll just give you my thoughts and I might connect you with somebody else and we see where it leads to. Okay. I see people are typing, but again, you could also come off mute if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you can type away as well. Ron Godfrey?
Evening, Grant, and all the people on the meeting. I just wanted to mention perhaps it would be useful to share kind of a career roadmap in terms of or certification roadmap, I could say, that will help people with different cyber roles, especially the people that's in beginner that might not know exactly where to start at all. Perhaps focusing on some of the main cyber roles or just roles in general that could be
Yeah,
useful for people. Just for the sake of sharing. Okay, you can start with the beginner and then
I'm
move
with you.
towards more
I'm with you.
advanced situations. Yeah.
Yeah. So Gron, there's a good one out there that I'm gonna share with you, right? um I've seen one that's very comprehensive and I'm adding it to the list of what I'm gonna share with everybody when I do the closing off email later. The reason why I'm not gonna create another one is quite simple. I'm not able to attest to a certification I haven't done. All right. And although I've done a lot, I haven't done everything. And the last thing I want to do is recommend to you that a junior certification should be ABC, and then I haven't done ABC.
That makes sense.
That's the risk I'm running, right? So I will only ever comment on what I've done and what has worked for me, but I am going to share an industry agnostic certification roadmap. If you take nothing else from it, what it did get right is where it placed the certifications. So it will say entry, mid, senior, advanced, and it will give you a view. And there's a lot, right? And when you do look at that map, then remind yourself why you need a clear plan because you cannot go for them all. You're gonna get distracted and the value won't be there. All right. Everything is not worth getting. You need to be strategic. Again, I've done some stuff that reflecting now I shouldn't have. But again, I wasn't always strategic. For the most part, I was just taking a tactical approach, and sometimes I got lucky along the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Makes sense, yeah.
Thank you, Grant, for that question. Vusi?
Yes, sir. So I have two questions. And the first one that I wanted to ask is recently I was just researching the career roles that might be part of security. And I recently learned of DevSecOps, Development, Security, and Operations. Would you
Yes.
say that is that also a career that's part of cybersecurity, or it's something that's totally different?
Okay, I'll answer that question now. Are you based in Cape Town?
No, 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 sir.
Okay. Now, the reason I ask is next week, Saturday, there's a DevSecCon chapter meetup in Cape Town, completely free. And it's right on the money on the topic in terms of what you are asking now, right?
Oh yeah.
So DevSecOps, it's obviously around development and secure development, right? And building security into the into the development pipeline.
All right.
Now, that's not a field you can pivot into if you don't know how to develop. It's going to be very odd if you want to start telling developers how to secure the process, but you've never coded in your life. Okay.
Yes.
So if you are currently a developer, that would be a natural place for you to try and pivot in, is to say, let me do a little bit of security training and then specialize on becoming a DevSecOps specialist and getting people to code securely. All right, because you understand the developer world, you understand your current tools, and you know the mistakes you make. So that would be a logical progression. Definitely, you could classify that as part of security roles, but there you kind of need to know how to be a developer first.
Oh, okay. All
All
right.
right.
No, thank you, sir.
For those who are in Cape Town, I am going to pop the link in here. This meetup is happening next week. And again, if you are in Cape Town, and this is the thing that I said earlier, there's a lot happening where you could meet like minded people. So if you were in Cape Town and you had interest and you had questions, this event probably would have opened up a lot of or answered a lot of those questions for you. Okay, I put the link in there now. Let me go to the chat for more questions. Unfortunately, I need to leave. Thank you. That's fine. Thank you. Okay, so there's no more questions in the chat. Hands. Okay, so yeah, I'm just gonna. Okay, there's another hand. Wushi.
So sorry, sir. Last question. So I just wanted to ask, how on a scale of 10, would you say how difficult is it for one to break into the banking industry, particularly if you want to be in the cybersecurity role as an entry level? Would you recommend that one goes through the bank first, or no, no, no?
No, I don't think it's more difficult or easier than any other. The thing is, let's take a real life example, right? Absa Bank. Absa has got a cyber academy. They take people from
Yeah.
previously disadvantaged backgrounds, and they've got a criteria. You must have passed matric, and your income in your house must be less than certain numbers. But then they send you on a 3-year internship program, and up until this year they've had 100% placement. Okay, because they place their own students. But it's not less or more difficult. I think you're gonna have the same challenges there. If you can apply and be successful for internship at EPSA, you can apply and be successful at Ensign as well, or at any other company. All right.
Yes.
So let me while I mention it, let me post the link of the EPSA Academy in here as well, in case people don't know about it. Read about it, apply for it, and just become aware of it. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Let's see. Oh, that's still your end. Any other questions? Okay, doesn't look like we have any hands, and there's nothing in the chat. I want to thank you for your time, coming out and asking questions and being here. I hope you found some value in what I shared. And again, you are most welcome to engage with me anytime. Sometime later this evening, I'm sending out an email. It will have a number of attachments and links. It's the basic things I'm listing on the screen. And then it's also what I captured now in the notes. So I'm going to be sharing some links to entry level courses and basic books that you can consider. I will include the IC2 chapter links as well. And I will send a link to the certification roadmap for Grant Godfrey. And then an action for me is I'm going to schedule a webinar in 2 weeks from now where I invite 5 different professionals, and they are just going to tell you about the role. And I'm going to post that on the ISC2 chapter page. So that's what you need to follow. Those webinars are completely free. We do them twice a month, and we do it either on a Tuesday or a Thursday evening at 7. Okay. It is recorded, and you find it on YouTube 2 weeks after it's happened. So I thank you and have a blessed evening and keep well.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much, sir.
Thank you, Grant. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Ron.